We are now on our last few modules, but stick with me because this is for me one of the most important modules in this class that you are attending or e-learning module that you're attending, because this is where we do the reflection or the debrief. This is for you to further understand why we discuss what we discussed, right? To further differentiate after contrasting the tools commonly used in design thinking and design sprint, I see three key differences between design thinking and design sprint. While both of them follows a certain structure, they both have a high level framework, right? With design thinking being more human centered in its approach, as I've mentioned earlier. They're more creative and iterative in terms of the process that it follows. And it also involves 5 stages: empathize, define, ideate, prototype, and test. These are the commonly followed 5 stages in design thinking. On the other hand, design sprint mainly aims to rapidly prototype and test a solution to a specific problem. It involves 5 phases as well, which is understand, sketch, decide, prototype, and test. Notice the similarity there? I'll discuss it later. The difference, design thinking, again, is more flexible and encourages experimentation. This is why the combination of tools typically varies from one design thinking practitioner to the other. Even in my former company, when we run design thinking, sometimes our approach varies even though we are in the same company. Design sprint, on the other hand, is more structured and focused, where the team actually prioritizes the need to quickly validate a solution or prototype and make a more objective decision. This is why most practitioners has the same approach. 90 to 95% of the tools and how we use it remains the same. Believe me, because I've actually tried to change, or let's say redesign, design sprint, right? Mix and match the tools that I've learned from design thinking. And I was only able to supplement, meaning insert additional tools, but I cannot change the flow because there's actually a logical progression from one tool to the other. So the best that I can do, it was to supplement it with additional tool, just at least in my point of view, to make it much more stronger or effective, much more robust. Talking about structure still, design thinking is more open-ended and exploratory in its approach. The process is more exploratory. That can take weeks or even months to complete, depending on the scope of the problem and the complexity of the solution. It involves conducting user research, analyzing data, brainstorming ideas before you prototype and test a solution. Because their approach or design thinking approach is actually more holistic and would involve multiple stakeholders. Not only a cross-functional team like design sprint does, but really like multiple stakeholders. Design sprint, on the other hand, is time-boxed. It is a time-boxed process. And as you can see from the definition itself, when I mentioned it earlier, 4 days is the maximum time frame that you have to meet. During these 4 days, the team actually works intensively to prototype and test a solution. As I tell my team members sometimes, this is a sprint, not a marathon. The approach is more focused and it's done using or through a small cross-functional team. Design sprint actually requires not less than 5, but not more than 7 team members. That's it. Anything less than 5 would mean a much lesser effective brainstorming session. But anything more than 7 would actually complicate your sprint and it would take much more longer. In our design sprint overview program, or even in our full design sprint rather, I actually discuss the theory or the principle behind why we need to only do it up unto 7 team members. And there's a strong supporting evidence behind it. Going to the focus area, design thinking values empathy and user-centeredness or customer-centeredness, while design sprint aims to balance and get insight from both the business and customer. I've mentioned this several times already. And how does it do or how does it balance it is by obtaining both customer feedback and business objective, or let's say goal, at different stages of the sprint, not just once, right? Not just in the beginning, not just in the end, but different stages of the sprint. In practice, what this means is that design thinking starts with user empathy, hence customer persona, or hence the use of customer persona and customer journey map, including pain points and emotions, right? So that they will use this, or you will use this as the main platform for your ideation. On the other hand, design sprint Ask the Expert obtains feedback from both business team members and customer insight. Remember the guide questions we have, right? So at the end of it, even though from the first few questions that we have, it is business oriented, the end of it, there's still customer insight through your customer expert. Hence, we start with Ask the expert, followed by Customer Journey Map, right? Which continues the same dynamic that of business and customer balance, right? As I've shown you earlier, as we've discussed earlier. My personal take actually on this as a conclusive difference between the two design framework is that design thinking is more of a mindset, right? It is a way of thinking that values empathy, creativity, and experimentation. I actually like how AJ and Smart actually contrasted design thinking almost similarly, right? It's more of a framework, but they've explained it much more simpler. They've said design thinking is like attending a cooking class. They teach you the principle, right? The theories in terms of cooking. Design sprint is actually the exact recipe, right? It is the specific methodology specifically designed to help teams prototype and test solutions in a fast and efficient way. It is more of a way of working that values collaboration and iteration and data-driven decision making. So again, to put it simply, design thinking is like you attending a cooking class. They teach you the principles, the framework, right? The theories behind it. And then design sprint is this specific execution, the recipe, the step-by-step how to do it, how to apply design thinking. On to our next module, we will see and understand more the similarities and difference and including the benefits of design thinking versus design sprint.